Life is not meant to be easy. Scrolling, doom scrolling on social media. Like, it's called brain rot for a reason. It literally is messing with your brain. What people don't realize is how harmful that actually is. If all you're doing is rewarding yourself for not doing anything, I'm sorry to break it to you, you will never achieve anything worthwhile in life. This is very bad. That's this whole idea of delayed gratification. I'm going to sacrifice time now to achieve something better then. Sorry to break it to you. Your whole life is a sacrifice. Boo hoo. Happiness is simply another emotion. But to purposely, willingly sacrifice things in order for a higher cause, that is what wisdom requires. What's up, guys? Welcome back. Today, I'll be starting our first episode of The Pursuit of Wisdom. It's going to be like pretty much a podcast where I'm talking about kind of my experiences, what I've learned, all in the pursuit of wisdom. And before even getting into today's topic of stop chasing easy, I wanted to explain kind of what it is that I mean by wisdom and what does the pursuit of wisdom actually look like. To start off, what is wisdom? For me, wisdom is something that I very much strive for. It's very much a biblical term that is littered throughout both the Old and the New Testament, especially the Old Testament, when talking about um, things like new understandings or having a level of uh, mindset and mentality that is above or almost enlightened. And so for me, what wisdom actually looks like is knowing a lot of things, so lots of knowledge, but then having the humility to understand that there is so much more to know that you actually know nothing. And that humility aspect plays a huge role in how I define wisdom, because at the end of the day, you can know tons of things and not be wise because you're not humble and you're arrogant. And that's not a wise person, because in my mind, a wise person is somebody who knows so much, but they know that there's so much more to know, and they act as if, I know what I know, but I know that there's much more to know. And so somebody who I look up to, who I think is a fantastic representation of a very wise person, is Jordan Peterson. In my mind, when I think of a man, a masculine, strong, knowledgeable, and wise man, I look at someone like Jordan Peterson and I say, that is that definition. He fits that description, because not only is he just so well versed in psychology, in history, in metaphysics, like so many things, but he's able to articulate himself in a way where he seems just so incredibly educated and knowledgeable, and recognizing that, he stumbles and he wrestles with things that he doesn't understand, or recognizes that he struggles with, or are his faults. And when I think of myself as becoming a man as I get older and older, I truly do aspire to be like Jordan Peterson, uh, in the way that he articulates himself, in the way that he helps people, in all the ways that he acts. Of course, there's some things, of course, I would disagree with, and other things that I would agree with. But in terms of a father, a masculine figure, somebody who believes in God, and not only believes in God, but lives like they believe in God. That's one thing that he talks about, is people say they believe in God, but they don't know what that actually means, and the life they live doesn't represent that. And so it's fascinating to see how deep he goes into various different topics, and it's definitely something that I look up to for him. And so with the pursuit of wisdom, the way I see it is that your entire life, at no point in time will you be, quote unquote, a wise person. You can get wiser, but the whole point of this humility aspect of things is that at the end of the day, you have so much to learn, and so there's so much knowledge out there that you'll never actually know it all. And it's the pursuit of it, that the process of learning these new things, and helping others in that process, to me is what actually uh, wisdom looks like. And that's what 100% is what I want to be doing with this podcast, because the way I look at it is I already know a lot of things. I'm fairly well versed in the things that I do know. And I'm well aware that even in those same topics, I know nothing compared to the amount of knowledge that there is to know. And so I want to document this journey, not only for myself, but in this process to help other people who are also on that same journey, whether they're trying to be a masculine man or a feminine woman. Either way, there is lots to learn, lots to grow into, and I'm very blessed to have the opportunity where, maybe you actually want to hear what I have to say, whether it's because I've gone through a lot in my personal life, whether it's because I'm in the process of educating myself um, to get a degree in psychology and further pursue psychology to make that my career, whether that's because I work at a psychology clinic and I see all the people that come in and all the struggles that they come with and the things that they deal with. And I'm obviously very close with all the therapists as well. Like, I see it all. So it's potentially an open door that many people don't actually see most of the time. And it's a way that not only can I become wiser, but I can potentially help as many people as I possibly can, which of course, as I've made pretty clear throughout my videos, is my main goal. So, as you can see by the title of the first episode of this podcast, today we'll be talking about stop chasing easy. And so, what do I mean by easy, and what is actually the purpose of not chasing what is quote unquote easy? And in order to start off, I will be talking or reflecting on a quote that I've learned and lived by, I think I can say pretty confidently, for quite a while now. And that's, there's multiple ways to say it, but to sum it up very simply, is something's value comes from its level of attainability. And so this isn't 100% true 1,000% of the time, because some things are valuable that are freely given. For example, God's grace. However, on earth in this life, most of the time, even with things that do come with a quote unquote level of attainability, the value of them is determined by, a lot of the time, the difficulty in order to achieve such a thing. And that's simply just a law of life. It's a law of the universe. The way our human brains work is, we see, for example, somebody who's highly successful, and we know that, they had to sacrifice a lot in order to get there. They had to go through probably a lot of difficult times in order to achieve that. And just the whole idea of that, not everybody has that. The whole point is probably 0.000 however many percent of people are millionaires or billionaires or whatever it is. And so there's a reason for that, right? However, that's yeah, okay, that makes good sense. What is there to talk about in a podcast about that? The reason I bring that up is because what I'm noticing more and more these days is how much people are actually striving for comfortability, striving for what is easy. And what I've really reflected on is, people don't realize how actually harmful that is, and how much that can truly destroy your life if that's the thing that you're pursuing. And so, to kind of give a few analogies in order to further break that down, I'll start off with the idea of the modern world and the things that currently many people are pursuing. And so if you think of it from a quote unquote evolutionary standpoint, which even me personally, I don't 100% subscribe to the idea of macroevolution, but let's call it early humans. Even a few thousand years ago, there was no McDonald's fast food down the street. There was no Uber Eats that delivered it right to your door, where you don't even have to see the person. They'll drop it at your door, and that you don't even have to speak to them, and it's all done through your phone and all these things. Historically, you had to, in order to eat, which is a basic human need, like it's the bottom of the hierarchy, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you had to work really hard to do that. Whether most of the time it was the male figures who were going out, and whether it was they had a farm, so they were tending to their flocks, and they were, butchering the animal, cooking the animal, cleaning the animal, of course, all these things, and then preparing it. Like, that took a whole lot of work, whether it was meat like an animal, or even just crops. Like, for example, if it's a farm, if there's wheat that needs to be harvested, it takes planning and months, if not years, of tending to the farm and the soil and all these different things in order to simply get meals on the table, basic needs. And that, let alone, all these other, the higher levels of that hierarchy of finer things in life that were given to them. It was just the basic things that they needed that were something that they had to work really hard for. Whereas now, something like food, the thing you're eating isn't even food most of the time, just because of how horrible the food quality is these days, but because it's just mass produced. But then also just the level of attainability. In 15 minutes, I can go on my phone and search up the local McDonald's or Subway or Burger King or whatever it is, have them make my food for me, and have somebody else deliver it to my door, and all I have to do is go to my door and pick it up and eat it. And it may seem like, oh, what's so wrong with that? But what people don't understand is you are being rewarded for something when you eat. Because the way your body works, the way your brain works, is it works on chemical dumps. And so most people have heard of the term dopamine, where everything constantly, this happy emotion, whatever it is dopamine hits in your brain. And of course, when you're eating a meal after you've been hungry all day, you're getting lots of dopamine because, your body needs it. And it's like, this is a great feeling. I needed this food. But when you're rewarding yourself for nothing, what tends to happen is, not only does your body need more dopamine now in order to make you as happy as the last time, but what's happening is you're rewarding yourself for not working hard at all. And that causes this habituation and this pattern where you think you deserve something without working hard for it. And this shows up in every aspect of our lives these days, whether that's in food and eating, or that's in school and work, where AI these days is doing all the work for you. The whole purpose of school is to train your brain and test your brain to make yourself learn and grow. And if you're using AI to do the work for you, your brain will not attach itself or hold on to any of this information. And as a result, it's not going to remember anything. You're not going to learn. You're not going to grow. And that's for school and for work. And then there's the whole porn industry and this attainability of sex and the drives that come from sex. And again, as I've talked about in my testimony video, that was something that a few years ago was something that I really, really struggled with. And if you want to learn more about that, please go watch my initial testimony video. But with young men, and especially young men, but many young women as well, and older folks as well, they're recognizing how, why would I go out into the world and serve and work hard and sacrifice things to attain a marriage of one man or one woman when I can just experience the same feelings with zero sacrifice by literally going on my phone, searching up whatever it is I want to see, and feeling that experience on my own in my bedroom somewhere. Like, what people don't realize is these things are the way they are, rewarding, because it rewards you for improving, for getting better. And it takes a sacrifice in order to achieve those things. It takes difficulty. It takes time. And when you make everything in a person's life incredibly easy and straightforward and not at all difficult in any way, shape, or form, it becomes highly problematic. Because what ends up happening is people have no idea anymore how to operate, how to work hard, how to sacrifice. They become so incredibly spoiled. They become entitled, thinking that I don't have to work hard and things will simply be thrown at my feet for me to use, when that's just not how life works. You're in for a very rude awakening if that's what you think life is like. Thank goodness I've gone through so many struggles that I know that that's not what life is like. I've failed so many times in business, in soccer, in relationships, in happiness, in physical health, in mental health, in faith life, in spirituality. Like, I have failed over and over and over and over again. And to touch on how that affects wisdom, that is what wisdom requires: experience. And experience means both positive and quote unquote negative experiences as well. The most knowledgeable and educated people have gone through so many trial and errors, so many failures, so much time and energy sacrificed and spent on a goal. And unfortunately, what I notice with this generation is that people just, their attention spans are non-existent. There is no patience. There is no drive to work hard. There is no willingness not only to experience difficulty, but to purposely, willingly sacrifice things in order for a higher cause. And again, it comes back to, this is very bad, because if that continues, you will go your entire life not understanding how to live. Life is not meant to be easy, and I don't know why people think it's meant to be easy. One thing that my therapist told me one time that truly changed my perspective on life in general is, happiness is simply another emotion. It's not the number one goal. You will feel happy sometimes. That's great. And you will also feel sad sometimes. That's also fine. You'll also feel angry. You'll also feel scared. You'll also feel worried. These are all different emotions. Who told you happiness is the one that should be around as much as possible? If your goal is to live the human experience, that requires more than one emotion. But if your thought is, it's either positive or it's either negative, of course you're going to only want what's quote unquote positive. And that's what I thought initially too. But the whole point is, if you look at it all as an experience, it builds you to this higher goal, this higher attainability, which is peace as opposed to happiness, which truly should be the ultimate goal. And that's something that I'm, of course, striving for as well. And I mean, there's so many ways, so many directions that we can go on this topic. But the next thing to me that I really want to touch on is this idea of, again, instant gratification. What people don't understand is, as I mentioned in that initial quote, something's value comes from its level of attainability. If something is so easily attainable that everyone has it, you know that it's not valuable. For example, a nice car, of course, is, it's nice because it's loud or it's fast or it looks nice, of course. But if every single person had one, it would be like, yeah, okay. Why? It's not nice anymore. It's not cool. It's not luxurious because everybody has it. Whereas if only a few people had it and it was super expensive and only a certain amount of people could buy it because it's just so expensive, of course it's going to be looked at as, oh my gosh, that's so much better than, this car that anybody can buy, because it's hard to attain. And of course there's more in that goes further into it than simply that. But things like social media, specifically doom scrolling on social media, what people don't realize is how harmful that actually is. Because if you think about it, you're getting dopamine hit after dopamine hit after dopamine hit. What did you do to deserve that? Nothing. You opened your phone and you pressed the button to open the app. And you didn't have to go anywhere on the app. As soon as you open TikTok, bang, first video comes up. Bang, 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 bang. You can sit there for an hour without doing anything, and it's just next video, next video, next video. Believe me, I post on social media. I see the retention rate. Almost every single video, it's like retention rate is 1 second, and then people swipe by. And people wonder how they spend hours on social media. Believe me, sometimes I fall into these habits as well, but I'm at least conscientious of it. For people who don't even care and don't realize, not only is it you're getting this instant gratification, so therefore, when there is something that is actually more valuable, like a degree, like a job, like a family, like values, like actual values, people don't realize that, oh, this is actually not as easy as I thought it would be. Okay, I'm going to give up now. But they don't realize that it's worth it to make those sacrifices. It's worth it to not be as, or have it not be as enjoyable for a little while in order to enjoy something better. That's this whole idea of delayed gratification, which is something that forever I understood. Okay, that makes sense. I'm going to sacrifice time now to achieve something better then, because I can get something somewhat pleasurable now, but I'd rather that other one, that bigger thing, because it's more valuable. So I'll sacrifice that first thing to get that second thing. And that's the whole concept of earth and heaven. You must sacrifice your entire life in order to achieve perfection for eternity. That's just how life works if you want to go to heaven as a Christian. Sorry to break it to you. Your whole life is a sacrifice. Boo-hoo. You'll be in heaven for eternity with no problems or no struggles or no anything. Which is, again, I've talked about that in my previous video in terms of why I think the way I think. It's like a no-brainer for me. Okay, sure. Sacrifice everything. Every single day that I live my life. Whether I'm on this earth for 60 years, 80 years, 50 years, 10 years, whatever it is. I will continue to sacrifice every single day, knowing It's all a delayed gratification for the ultimate goal. And even while I'm on earth as well, I understood, okay, I want a family. I want a beautiful house. I want the cars. I want the whatever. Of course, all in moderation. Obviously, I'm not going to be doing stupid stuff. But I understood, okay, that means I got to start working on this now. That's why I'm filming this video. That's why I work so hard with the things that I do for social media, or I work so hard at work, or I do the research, or I do volunteering, or whatever it is. I understand the concept of sacrifice. And if people don't realize that instant gratification is not everything, which, again, as I was talking about, whether it's food, whether it's shopping, whether it's porn, whether it's AI in school and work and all these other things, entertainment just in general. If all you're doing is rewarding yourself for not doing anything, I'm sorry to break it to you, you will never achieve anything worthwhile in life. You will likely continue to sit on your couch and literally rot. Your brain will melt. And I say it like laughingly, but it's actually scary to me how many people literally, like, it's called brain rot for a reason. It literally is messing with your brain. And don't get me wrong, I'm not positioning myself as somebody who has a perfect brain and I never go on social media and whatever. But again, I'm conscientious of it. I set limits for myself. At the moment, I'm literally fasting, quote unquote, doing a dopamine fast detox, if you want to call it, from social media, from Instagram, from TikTok, whatever, other than posting what I need to. I'm not going to be scrolling on TikTok for the next week or so. I'm conscientious of that. And that's all it takes, is being conscientious, trying your hardest, setting boundaries, setting limits. Because at the end of the day, what you don't realize is if all you're doing is rewarding yourself, you will never self-sacrifice. You will never delay your gratification. And that will result in major problems in your life. You will never be in a happy, worthwhile relationship where there needs to be compromise, where you have to sacrifice yourself every single day for your spouse and for your kids. Same thing at work, same thing for school, same thing for everything. It takes sacrifice. And I can use the analogy of going to the gym, building up your physical body. If all you did was you sat in the gym and sat on a chair and expected yourself to grow, I'm sorry to break it to you, it's not going to happen. You know what you have to do? In kinesiology terms, in gym terms, it's called muscle hypertrophy, which, if you don't know what that is, it's progressive overload. Every single time you work out, you either have to increase the weight or increase the reps. And what's the purpose of that? It's to continuously build. It should be hard every single time you lift the weight. It should be hard. Because if that didn't happen, your muscles wouldn't grow. And again, this concept, this philosophy is a metaphor for life in general. In order to grow, you must go through sacrifice, and it should take time. It should be hard. Again, that's the definition of hard could be, either time consuming or takes actual thought and planning and effort. It doesn't have to be just miserable. Like that's something that I don't want to project onto you guys watching. That's something that I've had to learn, that it doesn't actually mean it has to be miserable. That's something that I had to learn. But if at the end of the day, like, you need to understand, it takes sacrifice. It must take time. And even again, I had a quote on my wall recently. I took it down, but it said, quick success builds ego. Slow success builds humility and wisdom and wealth. If all these people who you see flexing on the internet, or LARPing, as the kids say, the kids say these days. Those kids, like, first of all, they're not wealthy by any means. It's either they got rich overnight from doing something stupid and got lucky, whatever it is, or they scammed somebody and, you know, somehow they got a bunch of money. The whole point is you're egotistical because of that. You don't realize it, but the really wealthy people, the actual wealthy people, have gone through so much struggle in order to attain that they know at any moment it could go away. So they need to continuously be focused, continuously be grateful and thankful. And the furthest thing they're going to do, the last thing they're going to do is be arrogant about it, because they know how long it took. They know how many sacrifices they had to make. They know how many losses it took and failures. And so who are they to be like, yeah, you know, I got this. And so that's how you know if people are doing that in any way, shape, or form, it shows you that this person doesn't know what they're talking about. They actually don't. And so the last place that I wanted to take it before we end up wrapping up, because I don't want to make this video too long, especially because it's just the first episode, and there's so much to talk about. Like, let me make it clear for now that the whole purpose of this pursuit of wisdom is there's never ending topics, and there's so many things that there could be conversations about, and so many different angles to go. And a lot of it, again, is this whole self-improvement. Like, that's the whole idea of this podcast, so that not only I can teach what I've learned, but also I can reflect on those things and potentially help you as well. And at the end of the day, ultimately, if on the same idea, the same topic of, you know, pursuing wisdom and these sacrifices, if in one video I could tell you everything you needed to know for the rest of your life, I honestly think I wouldn't even do that, because it's not helpful. You know, potentially I can help you one episode at a time. It's like therapy. We can do one session at a time. And it takes time. Oftentimes it takes 10 to 12 sessions of therapy. That's kind of the average, in order to be like, yeah, you know what? I think I can slow it down a bit now. And so the last place I wanted to take you would be biblical, would be from the Christian doctrine, which would be, again, this idea of self-sacrifice. And it will be a topic of continuous discussion, especially when talking about Jordan Peterson, because one thing he continuously talks about is this, the fact that the entire Bible points to Christ. The entire Bible, whether it's the Old Testament foreshadowing or prophesying, and it's the New Testament breaking down all the different levels of things that needed to happen in order for things to be fulfilled and set forth on the correct path and things like that. And Jordan Peterson does a fantastic job exegeting, especially the Old Testament stories, in prophesying Christ and the sacrifice that he needed to make in order to atone for the sins of the world. And one of the archetypal stories he talks about is Abraham and Isaac. And if you're unaware, Jordan Peterson is a Canadian psychologist from Toronto, and he taught at U of T for many years, as well as had a private practice. But he also posted a lot of his lectures publicly in one on YouTube, and I'm watching his exegesis of the Old Testament at the moment, specifically the stories of Genesis, and I highly recommend that series to everybody watching, especially for the young men who are looking to really elevate their wisdom, because it is truly fascinating, and just how brilliant Jordan Peterson is, and the way he articulates the Old Testament stories. But this archetypal story of Abraham and Isaac, where just to look at it from a psychological perspective, I can do a number of things to show how much I love a person. I can invite you over to my house. I can cook a meal for you. And even in those few things, like, you can break that down. I can invite you over to my house. Okay, that's one thing. But maybe I can clean up before you come. So that's within just inviting you over. I can clean up, make it look nice for you. Then I can prepare something for you, whether it's tea or dessert, or what about a meal? And then you look at the meal. You can break that down as well. I can give you the best cut of meat. I can give you cereal. So there's levels to, not how much I love you, but how much I can show my care for you. And all of those things require time, energy, effort, and personal sacrifice for me to do that for you. And of course, I can pay somebody else to do it, but I would argue that, a home cooked meal is better than takeout. Why? Because there was, that quote unquote love added into it, that time and effort. And so the way Jordan Peterson talks about the way he foreshadows Christ, but also then brings in the Old Testament stories, is his ideas of sacrifice. And specifically with the Abraham and Isaac story of, in psychology, there's been a long debate of what is a greater sacrifice, sacrificing yourself or sacrificing your family. Like, ultimately, what's a harder choice? And in the Abraham and Isaac story, the way God is using this dynamic of the relationship between himself and Abraham is that he's testing his faith at each point. And he's saying, based on your belief, based on your faith, you are now a righteous man, and this will be accounted to you. And then he's blessed with, generations and generations to come. And it says in the Old Testament that his seed, his generations to come, will be like the stars in the sky, because it's just infinite. And eventually, through that bloodline, of course, Christ is born, saves the world. So it's like the ultimate gift, essentially. But in that story, in that Genesis story, there's this continuous sacrifice after sacrifice after sacrifice. And at the beginning of the story, Abraham is born into this, rich and wealthy family, and eventually needs to go into the wilderness. And his whole life has not had kids, and has had to wait until, he's in his old age, and then God promises a son. And of course, he doesn't believe it. He's like, God, you make up all these things. It's actually laughable. He actually laughs at it. And his wife does as well. And so what ends up happening is he becomes impatient. And what does he do? Him and his wife become impatient. And so he has a baby with his maidservant, and he messes up the whole thing. But God says, no, like, you need to have a baby with your wife Sarah, and from there you're gonna that seed will continue on. And finally, after waiting for so long, he's given this opportunity to have a son, and his name is Isaac, and he raises him. And after a few years, I can't remember exactly how old Isaac was, God asks him to sacrifice his son. And Abraham's like, you made me wait all these years, and you gave me a promise, and now what you want me to do is sacrifice the only thing that I was ever given, that I actually enjoyed now, and that I actually ever wanted. But what ends up happening is, after Abraham shows his willingness to sacrifice his son, God says, stop. Okay, you've shown me enough of how much you're willing to sacrifice, how much faith you actually have, I get it now. Like I see how much faith you have. And so why do I bring this up? What does this have to do with this whole conversation of stop chasing easy and delayed gratification? And it's this idea of sacrifice. The Old Testament stories all point to Christ. Christ in himself is God. He is a divine person with, depending on which Christology you adhere to, a divine nature and a human nature. And so what ends up happening is God himself humbles himself and comes to earth, because it's not, again, if you're a Christian, don't forget that it's not God the Father became the Son. That's not the Trinity. That's absolute heresy. So don't think that, because Jesus is eternal. The Word of God, the Logos, has been around for eternity. So don't confuse that. So God, the second person of the Trinity, comes down to earth and sacrifices himself. But you have to understand that there's divine relationships outside of creation, the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. And so now the Son of God is now sacrificed, in addition to God himself in the Logos, in the Son, sacrificing himself. And the reason there's that relationship to the Old Testament story of Abraham and Isaac is that foreshadowing. It is the personal sacrifice. This is my seed. This is my dream to have a son. Not only that, but it's now I have to sacrifice myself. Like, it's the highest sacrifice you possibly can to show how much I love you and how much I care for you and how much I actually care for you. It's the same way where you can ask the question of, if I jumped in front of a bullet in order to save your life, I'm sacrificing my life to show my own life to show how much I love you. And so this sacrifice is the ultimate sacrifice. And that is why the Christian narrative, the Christian doctrine, what people don't understand is love literally is at the center of everything that as humans we do, because God created us through love, for love, because he loved us. And then after seeing how corrupted we were from the free will that he gave us out of love, he then had to sacrifice himself for us out of love again, that we may even have the opportunity to continue to be in a relationship with him after we die. And so ultimately what it comes down to is, again, to kind of bring it all back together, is the things that are worthwhile require sacrifice. And the ultimate archetypal tip-top point of what is worth it, what is the purpose of everything, and is the ultimate goal and the ultimate prize, is this love of God. And even in that story, it's all based on sacrifice. The entire story of from the Old Testament to the New Testament, it's all pointing to the sacrifice of Christ. And so, as a reminder, to bring it back into this whole idea of stop chasing easy, the things with the most value, the highest value, require the most sacrifice, the most difficulty, the most struggle. And if it was easy, it wouldn't be worth it. If it was easily attainable and it took not a lot of time, everybody would have it. And if everybody would have it, it would not have the value that it does. And I can make a 1,000 videos talking about values and goal setting and things like that, which I will. But to end off this first episode, in this pursuit of life, in this pursuit of wisdom, remind yourself continuously, every day that you wake up, if I simply choose what's easy and attainable, I am not actually growing. I am not actually pushing myself to improve, to learn. And the things that are worthwhile, I'm telling you from now, require many sacrifices and lots of patience because it takes a lot of time. That's why they say patience is a virtue. If you can patiently wait for something and work as hard as you possibly can in the meantime, that's the golden ticket, because you're literally refusing to give up and you're doing what it takes to achieve whatever it is you want. Like, that's the recipe for success. And if you can continue to do that and you can continue to pursue these things, I can guarantee it's going to lead you down a path where you learn, where you grow, where you find things of true, actual value, not instant gratification, not stupid, meaningless videos or things of pleasure, like momentary pleasure, true happiness. And it's something that as humans, we are bound to mess up. We are bound to continuously look for the easiest thing. That's almost like what we're wired to do, especially these days. It's just being fed to you. Resist that. Resist those temptations and continuously work your tail off to find what truly is valuable and sacrifice what is needed in order to achieve those things. With that being said, if you've made it this far, I really do appreciate it. This video will probably be 45 minutes to an hour, so if you've made it this far, thank you. I really appreciate the support. I truly do hope that this can reach as many people as possible, and as I continuously pursue this life of mine and this wisdom that I so desire, I will continue to share that, as I truly believe that is what God has put me on this earth to do, is help as many people as possible. And so I truly do hope that this video helped you. If it did, let me know. Like the video, comment, subscribe. It's all helpful in supporting the journey, and in due time it'll all make sense. God bless you. I ask that you all pray for me. I pray for you all as well. Enjoy the rest of your day or night, depending on where you are. Take care. God bless.